Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are going to be talking about the Chicago Bulls and the expectations for this team heading into the postseason here. So, at this point, in really both conferences, we know the 10 teams that are going to be taking part in the postseason. Seeding is still sort of up for grabs with a couple games left, but we do know which teams will be involved. And obviously, Chicago is going to be one of those teams. They are set for a matchup against the Hawks in the opening round of the play-in tournament. Whether they host that game against the Hawks is, I believe, still in play, but we do know at least that that's going to be the matchup here. So, normally, if you've watched some of the other videos on this channel, you probably get the impression that I don't really like to be overly negative about teams, if at all possible. But in this instance, we're kind of going against that a little bit, because looking at Chicago, looking at the Bulls, it does sort of seem like everything is pointing towards problems for this team. The Bulls don't really seem to have a whole lot going for them, right? First and foremost, on the injury front, they really are banged up. They haven't had Lonzo Ball all season. They lost Zach LaVine earlier on. Patrick Williams is pretty much done for the season, I believe. And Alex Caruso has an ankle injury that probably will not keep him from playing in the postseason. I don't think it's that severe, but will at least be sort of a concern moving forward for them. So the Bulls are already playing with multiple players either out or maybe nursing injuries. And then you actually look at the team's statistical profile, and it's pretty bad. Most teams in the playoff field this season are either good on both sides of the ball, offensively or defensively, or they are okay on one side and then exceptionally good on the other, right? Case in point, teams like the Magic and the Pacers. Magic are not so great on offense, elite defense. Pacers are kind of the opposite, high scoring offense, defense not so great. The Bulls are pretty much bad on both fronts here, which is a pretty sizable problem. But we'll start on the defensive side. For Chicago, they are just 19th in the league by defensive rating. They're barely in the top half of the league in terms of points allowed. They allow 113.4 points per game, which is 13th in the league. And their rebounding differential is 0. It's flat, which I guess technically is not as bad as it could be because it's not a negative differential, but it's still not ideal. And even the parts of the Bulls defense that look like they might be a strength kind of end up being deceptive. All right, you take a look at the defensive statistics for the Bulls, and one thing you might notice is that they're pretty good at defending inside the three-point line. They allow the fewest 2-point shots made and 2-point shot attempts in the entire league. That sounds pretty good, right? If you can force a team to rely exclusively upon the outside shot, your defense may have a good solid shot at winning games. However, the efficiency that they allow on those 2-point attempts is 22nd in the league. They're allowing teams to shoot 55.6% on 2-point field goals. So you combine that with the fact that the team is 15th overall in the league in total field goal percentage allowed and dead last in 3-point percentage allowed. That positive really is not as positive as you would think, right? They do give up the fewest 2-point attempts and 2-point makes in the league, but they're allowing their opponents to shoot a crazy high percentage on those shots, and they're also not really stopping their opponents anywhere else on the floor. It's just that opponents, coincidentally, aren't taking too many 2-point field goals against them. they're still a porous defense, allowing relatively high percentages everywhere on the floor. So not great looking at a team trying to make a postseason run, right? But if defense isn't their thing, then you have to look to the offensive side. As I mentioned, plenty of teams have been sort of going that route this season. The problem is the Bulls' offense is arguably worse than their defense. The offense is also 19th in the league by offensive rating. They are 23rd in the league in terms of pure scoring, 111.7 points per game. The Bulls' offense really has trouble everywhere, but we'll sort of start on the outside and work our way in, I suppose. They're a terrible three-point shooting team. 28th in the league in three-pointers made, 26th in the league in three-point attempts per game, and 20th in the league in three-point percentage. Part of that probably comes from losing a guy like Zach LaVine, right? But the fact remains, the team doesn't really shoot threes, and when they do shoot them, they shoot a pretty low percentage, which is unfortunate, but still something you could work around, right? So they can't shoot threes. You focus on the game inside the arc instead, right? Especially with someone like DeMar DeRozan, who really has made a lot of sort of success in his career with that sort of mid-range game and playing inside. You've also got Vucevic down low. So the idea would be, if we can't shoot threes, let's live on the interior. And at first glance, it looks like that's a strategy that could work. The Bulls this season are 8th in 2-point field goals per game and 3rd in 2-point attempts, right? So they are shooting a high percentage of their shots on the inside. However, their shooting percentage for 2-point field goals is 23rd in the league, 52.9%. So that kind of starts to fall apart as well. If you're going to rely on the inside game and abandon the three as a viable strategy, you need to be so ridiculously efficient on the inside that you win, right? That you're effectively making two pointers for every 3-pointer that your opponent makes. That's just the most basic math possible, right? But the Bulls don't really do that, right? They're taking a lot of shots inside of that 3-point arc, but they're not really shooting as efficiently as they would need to make this work. Okay, well, maybe the Bulls could go for the sort of Lakers strat, right? Not a great 3-point shooting team. We're getting a lot of inside shots, maybe not shooting a high percentage, so let's play physically, let's live at the line, let's just shoot as many free throws as we possibly can, feed the ball to DeRozan and Vucevic, and just get as many free throws as possible. And that looks like something that might work for the Bulls. They're 9th in the league in free throw percentage, which unfortunately still puts them at 79.4% as a team. Not quite as high as you would want, but that's still top 10 in the league this season. However, you look at the actual numbers for their free throw shooting, they're 18th in the league in free throw attempts, and they're 17th in free throws made per game. So you look at the Bulls offense in terms of a scoring perspective, they're not a good 3-point shooting team. So you look to the interior, you look to 2-point shooting instead, but they're not really a great 2-point shooting team. They're not efficient enough to make that work as a strategy. So you look at freebies, you look at free throw shooting. They shoot a high percentage, but they don't shoot enough free throws to make that work. So basically at every step in the process, the Bulls offense fails to do what it would need to do to have really any significant confidence in this team. And I understand at this point, I'm probably sort of preaching to the choir, because the group of people who are most likely the most aware of, familiar with, and frustrated by the Bulls' issues this season are probably Bulls fans themselves. But it seems strange, right? You look at the teams in the play-in, or at least the teams projected to be in the play-in right now. Some of that might still change, especially in the West. But I see most of those teams as being capable, all of those teams other than the Bulls, as being capable of sort of moving past the play-in and at least being somewhat of a threat to the 1 seed or the 2 seed. Maybe not a threat to win that series, but anyone other than the Bulls coming out of the play-in, I see as a team that could take 1 game, maybe 2, off of whatever team they play in the first round, right? Beyond that, it would depend on the matchup specifically, but everyone could at least put up a fight, except for the Bulls. I really don't see it. They could probably get past the play-in, get past the Hawks, and then whoever, Philly, Miami, Indiana, whoever that other team that they would face in round 2 of the play-in would be, they could get past those teams in single game do-or-die scenarios just behind DeRozan or White or Vucevic just sort of popping off for 1 game, right? But anything beyond that just seems like way too much to ask for this team. They're banged up. Their rotations are not fantastic. Their defense is bad. Their offense is worse. So, I don't really know here. Maybe some sort of miracle happens, but I really don't anticipate the Bulls making much noise here beyond maybe fighting their way through the play-in, which would still certainly be exciting, but I don't really think it's what Bulls fans were waiting for after all of this sort of kind of rebuilding and then delay and then more injury news, things like that. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't expect the Bulls to go very far here, but let me know what you think. Do you believe that Chicago has some sort of miracle run in them, or will this be a pretty early exit from this year's postseason? But either way, please feel free to let me know what you think. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.